She waited for him every day, not knowing he was never coming back. At first, it felt normal, the kind of waiting that comes with love, the kind that carries hope, not fear, because when someone promises they'll return, you believe them, especially when that someone is everything to you. Her name was Aria, and every evening just before sunset, she would sit by the same window, the one that faced the narrow road leading into town, the one he had walked down the last time she saw him. That moment had stayed with her, clear, unfading. "Wait for me," he had said, smiling softly. "I'll be back before you even miss me." She had laughed. "Then I won't even have time to miss you." It was simple, easy, the kind of promise you don't question, because nothing in that moment felt like goodbye. But days passed, then weeks, and the road stayed empty. At first, she told herself it was nothing. Maybe he got delayed. Maybe something unexpected came up. Life happens. Plans change. But promises? Promises don't just disappear. So she waited. Every day, same time, same place, same quiet hope sitting in her chest. People began to notice. At first, they smiled. "You're still waiting?" her neighbour asked one evening. Aria nodded. He said he'd come back. The neighbour hesitated, then smiled gently. "I'm sure he will." But there was something in her eyes, something that didn't match her words. Aria noticed it, but she ignored it, because doubt is easy to dismiss when hope is strong. Weeks turned into months. The seasons began to change. The warm evenings became colder. The light faded earlier. The road looked different, but her routine didn't. She still sat by the window, still watched, still believed. People stopped asking after a while, not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know what to say. What do you tell someone who refuses to give up hope? What do you say when the truth might break them? So they said nothing, and Aria kept waiting. Sometimes, late at night, she would replay his voice in her mind. "Wait for me," over and over again, holding on to it, because it was all she had, until one day a letter arrived. It wasn't addressed in his handwriting. That was the first thing she noticed. Her heart sank slightly, but she opened it anyway, slowly, carefully, as if whatever was inside could change everything. And in a way, it did. The words were short, simple, but heavy. "We regret to inform you." Her hands began to shake. No, this wasn't right. This wasn't supposed to happen. There were no survivors. The world around her went silent, because suddenly everything she had been holding on to began to fall apart. It didn't make sense. It couldn't be true. He had promised. He had said he would come back. People don't break promises like that. Not him. Not like this. The letter slipped from her hands, falling to the floor, but she didn't pick it up. She just sat there, staring ahead at the same road, the same empty road that now felt different, colder, further away. Because for the first time, she understood. He wasn't late. He wasn't delayed. He wasn't choosing not to come back. He couldn't. And that truth was heavier than anything she had imagined. Days passed again. But this time, something had changed. The window was still there. The road was still there. But Aria, she wasn't the same. She still sat by the window, still looked outside. But now there was no expectation, no quiet excitement when footsteps echoed in the distance, only silence and memory. People noticed again. She still sits there, someone whispered. Why? Another voice answered softly. Because she doesn't know how to stop. And maybe that was the truth. Because when waiting becomes part of you, letting go isn't easy. It's not instant. It doesn't happen the moment you learn the truth. It lingers, slowly, quietly, like a habit your heart refuses to break. One evening, months later, the sun began to set again, just like it always did, the light falling softly across the room, the road glowing faintly in the distance. Arya sat in her usual place, her hands resting in her lap, her eyes on the road. But this time, there was something different. A stillness, a calm, not the kind that comes from happiness, but the kind that comes from acceptance. She closed her eyes for a moment, and in that silence, she heard him again. Wait for me. Her lips trembled slightly, and for the first time, she whispered back, I did. A tear slipped down her cheek. Not sudden, not overwhelming, just quiet. Like everything else, she opened her eyes, looked at the road one last time, and slowly she stood up, not because she stopped loving him, not because she forgot, but because she finally understood something. Waiting doesn't always mean someone is coming back. Sometimes it just means you're not ready to say goodbye. She walked away from the window, leaving it open, the soft evening light still spilling through, the road still stretching into the distance, unchanged, unmoved, and empty. Because sometimes the hardest part isn't losing someone. It's realizing you've been holding on to a moment that already ended and learning how to live after it.